Welcome back to For the Love of Men. My name is Brianna Mosier, and I am co-hosting with my good friend Courtney Shand. And the intention of this show is to bring together men and women in harmony and honor each other's masculine and feminine energetic cores to create healthy, polarized relationships. If this is your first time listening, we're so happy you're here. And welcome. My name is Bree. My work in the world is I help really powerful, ambitious women scale soul-led businesses and attracted, empowered masculine partners by being in their empowered feminine energy. And we're going to tell you about ways to work with us at the end of the show, but I do have a really cool container open called the Pleasure Portal.
Beautiful.
So stay tuned for that. Courtney,
Yes.
what is your work in the world?
Well, my name is Courtney Shand, and I really specialize in the dating and relationship space and helping women and men show up and understand how to recognize healthy, empowered partners to create that dynamic of partnership. And I love it.
Yeah.
I do work with men and women in that domain. So, we'll tell you a little bit more about what we have available at the end, but I'm excited to share that.
Yay, amazing. So you guys, if you love this episode or any other episode you listen to in the future, we do this show for free, and it means the world to us if you would just share it with somebody that you think would benefit. Your mom, your sister, the men in your life that you want to win with women, anybody that you feel like would benefit. When you share it, that helps us so much to get this work around healthy relationships out in the world. So thank you for those of you who have been sharing and tagging us in your Instagram stories and letting us know you're listening. Courtney and I celebrate this.
Geek out. Oh my gosh.
We screenshot.
Yeah.
We send it to each other.
Yeah.
We
Private
have a little gift war.
celebration party.
It's really great. So thank you all for sharing, and we appreciate you. We have another question this week.
Which is so fun. I had so much fun recording the last question.
Yes, and thank you for your questions.
Yes.
I feel like the most magic comes out of when people ask a question and we get to go into coach mode directly.
Yeah. And collaboratively.
Yes.
Like, you coach differently and I coach differently. And when we're together, we get both.
It's true.
Like, an extra layer of genius. It's almost like a third layer.
It's its own little coach
magic.
baby.
Anyway. Little coach baby.
Little coach baby. So we have a great listener question. By the way, if you have questions that come up as you're listening, again, DM us.
Please.
We want to know.
We want to know because we love helping like this.
Yes. So her question is, how does one go about addressing/dealing with anxious attachment that occasionally shows up as jealous in a relationship? Actually, she says that shows up as jealous in relationships. So I'm wondering if she means romantic or any type of relationship, you know?
How we do one thing is how we do most things, in my experience.
It's true.
And when you have an anxious attachment style, as you start to peel back the layers, it probably is seeping into multiple domains of her life. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know, would you mind characterizing what an anxious attachment looks like?
Good call. So according to the attachment theory, there's 4 categories of your kind of blueprint, how you were developing in your what's called attachment with your main caregivers as a child. So there's secure, that makes up about 50% of the population, I think. There's anxious, which is typically going to be really aware of what's happening in the connection, very aware of what's happening with the other people. They like a lot of contact. They really crave that intimate closeness more so than the other attachments, which are more avoidant. And the anxious attachment is going to be really, they're often called anxious preoccupied. So they're very, like I said, aware and kind of hypersensitive to any shifts in the dynamic or in the relationship that they're in. So they often are very attracted to the avoidant attachment, their counterpart, who doesn't really like a lot of closeness. They really value their freedom and space, and they really are more concerned with their feeling of safety being more autonomous, in my experience. They tend to like a lot more alone time than the other two attachment styles. And when they feel like things are threatening to them, and that can be through closeness and intimacy, their defenses go up. So they kind of put these walls up and push people away on an energetic level or emotional level. Then there's that fourth dimension, which is kind of an anxious avoidant, fearful avoidant combination. And that's its own style, where they kind of have this push-pull dynamic where they really want the closeness and they also tend to push that away. So it can be kind of confusing to allow the nervous system to relax for that person as well. So there's 4 categories, and each of them have their own kind of personality type, if you will, and its own way of healing. So this one's asking about the anxious attachment.
Yes.
So,
And really quickly,
anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is, for people listening, I'm sure this question will come up, what would you say is the difference between wanting closeness from a secure place versus wanting closeness from an anxious place?
Good question. So healthy, secure connection is able to have coming and going. And this is kind of how I like to think of it, because that was a question that I really had to wrestle with. Because if you have any avoidance, and mine was fearful avoidant, that was my attachment predominance. And so if you have any of that, it's like intimacy at all is too close. Securely attached people are able to have coming and going, and they trust that you're going to come back. It doesn't arouse their nervous system to have someone leave or come close to them. They have a way of regulating themselves where they feel calm and neutral most of the time. If you leave the room, you're probably going to come back, and then you come back and they're calm in that way as well. Whereas someone that's got more of an anxious attachment is going to really notice when you leave the room. It's going to stimulate their nervous system and kind of cause them to tense up and behave out of that too. Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that?
Yes. I would just say that you can move between attachment styles.
Good point, yeah.
You can be secure all your life and then have an unhealthy dynamic and move into avoidant or anxious. Or you could be avoidant your whole life and date a secure partner and then shift into a secure partnership style, because over time your nervous system is recalibrating to safety and security and stability.
Such a good point.
Yeah. So you're not stuck.
Yeah, this isn't static. Very fluid. And I love that you said that, because that's such a good point.
Yeah. So her question was, it went away. Her question was, how does one go about addressing and dealing with anxious attachment that occasionally shows up as jealous in a relationship? So I think what she's saying is she knows she has an anxious attachment style.
Okay.
And when I'm making this up for context because she hasn't given us some, but let's say she sees her partner talk to another girl or boy, whatever their sexual orientation is, and she starts to feel jealous because she already is predisposed to have anxiety in relationships. How would we help her address and deal with that?
Well, I think it's really important to notice that this is happening on a biological level. We can talk about it all day from a psychological level, but this is happening in your body.
Yes.
And until we get to that point, I feel like the strategies that I learned until I really got into more body-based strategies just didn't quite get there. Because we can talk about it all day, in talk therapy, and that's super helpful. I'm not saying that that's not. But until you're able to release that nervous system clenching feeling, it's going to be much more difficult.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that you can be aware that you're noticing jealousy, what does jealousy feel like in your body, is such a good question to start asking, because you're going to start to notice the sensations that get triggered that you tend to experience. And once you get that clarity, you can start to put some soothing in place.
Yeah. You have awareness.
Yeah.
And then just don't make it wrong, right?
Yeah.
When you know you're healing from anxious attachment, you're going to have that feeling come up, and it's okay. You're recalibrating. That's not there to stay. It's not fixed. You won't experience this forever. You can actually, I've had this experience. I bet you've had this experience too, where you can take a trigger that would make you anxious and take the charge out of it. Where later it just doesn't bother you anymore. Courtney and I both do a lot of somatic body work to heal trauma and triggers and help our clients in that. because she's right. Those things live in the body. That energy lives in your body. So even if you know logically, I have nothing to worry about. Like, this is a random person that he doesn't know, right? There's nothing to be worried about here. Your body is still in full panic mode. Your body can go into this fight, flight, freeze. What does this mean about me? Is he going to leave me? Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, like all at once. It can feel like this giant witch's brew of what we perceive as negative experiences in your body. And it lives in your body. So as much as you logically tell yourself, it's fine, I'm overreacting, your body's going to be like, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
I am scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good point. I will say what not to do is to try to logic it.
Yeah. You don't intellectualize your feelings. You have to feel them.
Yeah. Don't bother logicking this one in particular. That is really going to like just add gasoline to the flame, because you'll gaslight yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's quite painful. So yeah, I would say that when you start to recognize where jealousy sits in your body, you can start to, something I do is like when I notice whatever sensation it is that's uncomfortable, is to just put my hand there. And it just kind of like puts this calming, grounding presence there, because all of my attention is going to follow my hands. I can be with that sensation when I'm like focusing on it with more presence. And then when you can do that, it starts to dissipate a little bit more. And then you can start to apply some more logic. Then you can start to bring in like, okay, this is our waitress. She's talking to all the men at the tables like this. You know, you can start to bring a little more awareness of like, maybe I don't need this reaction.
Right.
Okay.
You can, and also breath into the spot of tension, right? Like,
Oh,
really breathe into your twisting belly and speak to yourself with kindness, please. If you haven't listened to, we have an episode on wounded versus healthy masculine. That's key here, because this is your wounded feminine coming out going, I'm scared, I'm being abandoned, I'm not good enough, all these things. Your EM internally has to come online and remind you how amazing you are, that you're safe, that you're always going to be okay, and really talk to yourself in that way. If you start judging or shaming, my experience has been downward spiral.
Yep.
It just gets worse.
Yeah.
It's like patience, compassion, love on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, because when I remember when I was starting to learn about attachment style, like even the love on yourself, or like give yourself the love that you're trying to get, didn't really make sense to me in a like practical way until I started to get a little further along. But like a really simple way of loving yourself is like imagining talking to a friend. And maybe that's, I don't know how you talk to your friends, but I would hope that you would talk to your friends in a more encouraging way. Like, that's not true about you. I love you. I love being around you. You know, and starting to like rewrite this story that's activated.
Yeah.
And just being with it, just sitting like you would with a friend. Like, wow, that's tough. That's a great place to start too. Like, wow, I really feel that. That's hard. And just kind of honoring it and voicing it can go a long way.
Yeah, I think for me what's been helpful too is knowledge is power, right? So when you know what your triggers are, if you know you're predisposed to feeling a little bit jealous, when that comes up, like the waitress at the table, let's say, because we've all been there, we all have girl brain, we get it.
Yep. No
we have an episode coming for you on girl brain.
Oh, you just wait.
It's so good. But when you're in that moment, for me, it's helpful to put my hand on belly, breathe into those spaces, speak with love, and then I don't take it to my partner right that second. For me personally, if I know that's a trigger, and it's probably coming from a wounded place, I don't want to project it onto them or try to make them hold it until I've felt it through on my own and I can come through in clean energy. That might be, as like David Data would say, that might be like stage 1 or stage 2. I don't know, maybe that's not stage 3 work. But for me, I don't want to risk putting hurt on somebody and blaming them because I'm triggered. Like, you shouldn't be talking to our waitress. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I make it kind of not a rule of myself, but an option to not bring it to the table. Like, can I feel this, be with it privately, and compartmentalize it for a minute, and then revisit it later, talk it out with a friend before I come to the table and say, I'm really jealous about XYZ relationship. when a trigger's alive in your body, it can make everything magnified, painful. The story that you tell can go off the rails. And it's just unnecessary. We can tell this narrative that they don't love us, they're leaving us, they're going to abandon us. And at least for me, I need time by myself to feel through that. And then usually with a friend that I trust that gets this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's so helpful to have an extra set of eyes. Because sometimes it is, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, where it is just overwhelming. And you don't want to take that to your partner, because that is, not because it's going to make you less attractive. I'm not going to put that even on the table.
Yeah.
But because it is your work,
and
you need support in that moment that they can't actually give you.
Yep. Yeah.
And to ask for it is going to put some strain on the relationship. So to keep it healthy and clean, like Brie was saying, do the work with someone else that's not invested in that dynamic.
Not so close.
Yeah.
This is where mentorship and coaching is so key. Honestly, I was just telling one of my one-to-one clients this the other day, because I help her with relationships and dating, but her partner doesn't have any mentorship, and she dates men, so her male partner doesn't have any mentorship or like men's groups or things like that. And for her, she was expressing how it can sometimes get messy, because she'll come to me and clean it up, but he doesn't have anywhere to go to get his thoughts out and talk about his trauma and things that have happened to him. And I'm just a firm believer that a successful relationship takes a support system on both sides individually, so the relationship can thrive. Would you agree with that?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. I 100% think that, because otherwise you're going to be shouldering more of the work.
Yes.
And the relationship has plenty of work for two people, because we both come in with our baggage that needs to be dealt with, and to take responsibility for what's yours and not be the therapist to your partner. There's a lot of healing that can be done in the space between you, but that also means that I'm doing the work behind the scenes and you're doing the work behind the scenes, so that space stays clean.
Yeah. I agree.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And men need those spaces. Women do too. That's what we do all day in the world, is help women, but there's a huge opportunity for men to have these conversations with other people, and it's such a gift to their woman when they do that.
Totally.
Like, I don't think that men, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I don't think men understand the amount of pressure that women will feel if they are either having to be the therapist for the relationship or concerned that he's not going to pick up the slack. We will pick up the slack and overwork our personal development work. Has that ever happened in your experience?
I mean, I'm a coach. Like, it is in my nature. I will say, before I really started attracting in the kind of man that was really compatible to me, which is somebody who's in personal development and does this work, right? That to me is going to be the best fit. Before I was dating men like that, it was hard, because every day, all day, I pour myself into studying this work, being mentored by it, coaching my clients in it, and to not have someone speak the same language or understand how trauma is stored in the body, what is codependency, what is narcissism, what is wounded, what is empowered, how to deal with conflict, like how to help someone open, what to do when they're closing, it's skills. Relationship, make no mistake, is a skill. You can be in love with somebody and they don't have any relationship skills. And it is very difficult to make that work. So I think women in particular, especially if you're drawn to this podcast, like, it's a personal development show. You're going to be drawn to doing this coursework. And if your partner's not doing it too, it can be easy for us to go into just a little bit of codependency and start kind of, pulling our partner's weight, which isn't healthy. You know? We all need support. And you need outside sources. I mean, I have a few, first I go to my coach, but then I have a few girlfriends. Courtney's one of them, where I'll be like, I need your eyes and your heart on this. I'm too close. Like, call me out. What is it? You know? And that is so helpful.
Yeah. Oof.
So good. We've gone off track a little bit.
But that being said, when you said that, it made me think, I also want to bring an option for this girl, this woman, who sometimes anxious attachment can be your true empowered response to avoidance.
Ooh, say more.
Yeah. Like, sometimes if we really get into, and this is the empowered, kind of elevated level of relating, is trusting yourself and your body. And I have noticed that sometimes we can label things as anxious. This is my anxious attachment coming up, or this is my codependency coming up, when our partner's not picking up their part.
He's actually insinuating jealousy on purpose, is what you're saying. It could be a legitimate issue.
Yeah. So if you're noticing, if you're picking up on the vibe of like, if this isn't a perpetual pattern for you where all of your men in your dating history have made you feel jealous, and that's your thing to clean up so that you're not continuing to perpetuate that pattern. But if that's not the case, and this is a one-time thing, I would trust yourself. And when you do come from a clean place from there, notice, is this happening in my body all the time? This is something I can remember for the whole, however long you've been dating. It's also okay to see the other person and what they're contributing to your attachment style, because to secure people, there's not like this gold standard of secure attachment. I mean, there is, but at the same time, learning to trust yourself as you're healing and coming to the middle and finding someone that is a healthy, compatible counterpart to you is what makes you secure. Does that make sense? I'm saying that.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is, how I would rephrase it is, it's important to know yourself and what your triggers are, because you could be in a dynamic where somebody is causing jealousy in a way that would make any secure person raise their eyebrows. Like, is that a red flag? But if we know we are anxious attachment, and I think anxious people in general tend to be like, is it my fault? All the time. So you might be taking accountability and responsibility for, oh, I'm triggered, when really, like, no, they could be putting their eyes in other places, or other things in other places, we don't know. But creating jealousy for you, and it could be a legitimate issue. So discernment is what you're saying.
Yes.
Is this mine or is this his?
Yeah, and that's where being able to discern what is yours. And after you've cleaned it up, if it's not yours, then that's fair. It's not yours.
Yeah, you can have an anxious attachment, and I've had this happen, right? I used to, less now, would have a lot of anxious attachment, and I would go to my mentor and say, what do you think about this situation? And she would be like, I get it, Bree, but that's not on you. Like, that's his poor behavior.
Yes.
We need
what
those
we've
grounded,
been used to. What we've been used to is no longer working for us, and it's making us anxious. That's where I'm saying pay attention to anxiety, in that it's an up level. You are ready for a new partner. If you've done the work and you find yourself acting as an anxious attachment.
Yeah, totally. People can bring it out in you.
Yeah.
You could be a secure partner and you date somebody who insinuates the anxiety, and you're like, this version of myself is somebody that I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, this isn't fun.
Yeah. Gosh,
thanks for clarifying that for me.
So much goodness.
Yeah.
Stay Ollie. We have I have Ollie dog on my lap. I have a little French bulldog, if you don't know.
So cute.
And he's just flirting with Courtney from across the table.
We're making eyes.
If you hear a bunch of sighs, that's Ollie in the background. He's a heavy sigh person when he's not getting love. Even though he's directly on top of me.
Yeah.
Ollie's anxiously attached. Actually, though. Anyway. Okay, so she says, how do we go about addressing and dealing with it? So we've brought up discernment, sit with your body, right? The next thing I would do personally is look at the story that I'm telling. So is the story that I'm telling that he's going to run off with this girl and abandon me? Is the story that I'm telling I'm not good enough for him, he's going to pick someone better? Like, what's the thing? Because whatever story you're telling is going to be insight into where you're holding a wound or a leak in your energy that you get to clean up. So if it's that you don't feel like you're good enough for him, in that moment it might be soothing yourself with why you're a high quality woman, what you bring to the table. And I would, if that's a story for you, I would really recommend making that a daily practice of speaking power into yourself and looking at what you're amazing at. And if it's body image, looking in the mirror and really admiring yourself, because when you get so secure within who you are and what you bring to the table, that becomes less intimidating other successful women, or other beautiful women.
Exactly. I'm
for that
so
particular
glad you
one.
said that. Yeah.
If the fear is that he's going to leave you or abandon you, the soothing for me is I can never be abandoned. I'm always going to have myself. I'm always going to have God, source, universe, whatever you believe in. And if this isn't my person, somebody more aligned is coming. And I trust that. And that really has been my dating experience. It's been really profound.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything to worry about in this moment. And then also looking at what rapport and foundation do you have with this man? And look at all the evidence of the ways that he has validated you and loved on you and told you that he is committed or interested or whatever stage you're in. Do you really have anything to worry about? Or are we just having a human moment of feeling like, am I good enough? Which, by the way, we all have those moments.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Would you add anything to that for how to kind of logically shift?
I think that is so beautiful how you said it. All the things. That's exactly the process that it takes to kind of secure yourself. If you imagine sort of like a boat, finding that center within yourself, and then you can attach to a dock or another boat or whatever, but you can't be like wobbling and rocking all over the place. And there are things that you can do to kind of center yourself, which is exactly what you said, and I loved that.
Thank you. When do you think it's appropriate to reveal your heart and bring it to your partner and maybe vulnerably ask for a little reassurance or share what's coming up in you?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I would say that you're ready to have that conversation when you're ready to hear no. That's usually my rule, is I'm ready to ask for this when I feel stable enough in myself to hear no. Not necessarily that they're gonna say no, but that if I am not willing to let that be an option, if it's still too scary, then I still have some stabilizing to do within myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
As much as you and I talk about I've never heard you give that answer.
Interesting.
I'm excited by this. I'm feeling into like, what does it feel like for me?
And that might be my own like attachment style, that I want to make sure that I'm like grounded and centered.
Yeah.
But I do find I come at it from a more empowered place when I'm willing to hear that no is an option.
Yeah.
And until I'm ready to have that be an option, I don't feel like it's really fair how I would address it.
Right.
Because I would be coming from this like, stabilize me place.
It's what's the intention. Okay. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Help me gain clarity. I think it's like, what's the intention?
Yeah.
Am I looking for your reassurance that I'm the bestest and the mostest?
Which is a thing.
And can I live without it, right? Because I can validate myself. Or something that I've been playing with lately is, am I revealing this to create more intimacy and be more authentic? In which case, I'm not attached to whether or not you reassure me or validate me, because I'm opening my heart to you and sharing this vulnerable thing just for the sake of vulnerability and connection. I'm not trying to control the outcome of how you perceive it. Yeah. So I think it's about, well, what's your intention when you share?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it is very much a different energy that you're bringing when you're just sharing for the sake of information being passed over. And then he gets to come up with a creative solution. But sometimes it's still too raw when you're asking for it from a place of like...
Yeah.
And you can still feel that. I want to just clarify. I'm not like, I've solved it and I don't need you. And you can walk away anytime. I'll be crushed. Yes, I will feel crushed. But the difference being that in that moment, I'm not coming from the insecure feeling.
Sure.
I'm coming from a adult version of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally. I think it's important to recognize too, we've given her a lot of tools for how to soothe herself, how to have this conversation. And just make sure you're looking at objectively, is this person actually securely attached, or is there really a red flag here? And one of my good friends, Katie, does dating and love coaching, and she gave me this advice a long while ago to keep a red flag journal when you're dating. And so maybe marking that down if you're noticing it's a feeling in your system quite often. Again, secondary pair of eyes, but don't take the brunt of it because you know you have an anxious attachment style. Like, be willing to look at, is this person helping me stabilize, like triggering this out of me to find a better, higher way of being in a relationship, or are they just triggering me because their behavior is not appropriate and healthy? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, because that is kind of indicative of or something that's a common feature with people that do resonate with the anxious attachment persona, is that they will take on more blame. They're easy to blame because they are so hyper aware of themselves and all their flaws that no one else is actually seeing.
Yeah.
But it creates this like echo chamber within themselves that they will take on. It must be me. Yeah, it must be something I did, and that's based on their like patterning and their history.
Yes.
So yeah, discernment.
Yes. Any final thoughts on this question? I feel complete.
I feel really good about it. I mean, I think the whole process that you laid out is exactly step by step what you would actually tangibly do. And we talked big picture of like where it comes from and what to do about it. And sometimes it's not you, and that's an option too.
Yeah.
And that's where coaching can be really helpful, because you probably will have a more difficult time discerning that if you're not used to the information and if you're not aware of what is healthy to begin with.
So true, especially when you're in the thick of a trigger. I mean, we do this for a living. This is our work in the world, and I still get in moments of a trigger and go, I just can't see which end of the tunnel I should be going down right now. Like, I just need someone grounded and far away from the situation to help me center. A coach or a friend that is in this work, not a friend that doesn't do healthy relationships or is codependent, or a girlfriend that you just kind of like love and adore. Doesn't mean that they do relationship well, right? So be very specific and intentional with who you share these vulnerable moments with, because you will get advice that reflects the way they see the world. Share it with people who are educated in this realm. Yeah,
that's such a good point, because you calibrate to whoever you're stabilizing with. When you're sharing something that's wobbly for you, you will calibrate to their sturdiness, whatever level that is. And if you're someone that has an anxious attachment style historically, your good friends probably also have anxious attachment styles, or the avoidant attachment styles. So you may be getting kind of some skewed information, like Brie was saying. That's such a good point, to make sure that you're actually working with someone that's helping you move through this.
Yes, this is, I didn't realize this episode we'd be so excited about coaching, but it's just so important.
But it is. Honestly, that's been the most transformative thing that I've ever done.
Me too.
Is to invest in people that can look from the outside and help me.
Yes, 100%. If you love this episode, please share it with a friend. Put it in your Instagram story. Tag us. Mine is at building3BRI. Courtney, what's yours?
Courtney_Shand, SCHAND.
Amazing. They're both in the show notes. So if you love it, tag us. If you have a question, DM us.
Please.
We want to know.
Please. We have so much fun doing this.
Yes.
And hopefully it helps, because the more that we can share actual real-time scenarios, the easier it is to learn.
Yeah, totally. Not just open to women, by the way. Men, we would love your questions. We are so excited to help you win with more women.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So send us your questions.
That's literally why we are here.
Exactly. Courtney, how can they learn more about you and how to work with you?
Yeah. So my website, CourtneyShand.com, has everything that I'm working on. I hang out more on Facebook than Instagram. The Instantgram that Brie hangs out. I'm more on Facebook more often than not. So Courtney Shand on Facebook, you can DM me there. I've got a couple different things that you can do, but relationships specifically, I have a course for this to help you learn how to stabilize yourself in any of these situations, so that men can hear you and see you, and so that women can find you or be attracted to you. If you're a man, I've got a male version and a female version of these courses, and it is a game changer information-wise. So DM me the word arise for women's or rooted for men's.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it. And I would love to share some details on that and see if it's a good fit.
So good.
Yeah.
So Facebook is the best.
Facebook is the best place to find me. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. What about you?
What about me? I hang out
all
on
sorts of stuff.
all sorts of things. I have a website, buildingbri.com. My Instagram is at buildingbri. That is where I hang out often. I love to do all the Instagram stories and posts and reels and help you with all things dating, relationships, pleasure, money, business. Anyway, I have a great program open right now that's starting on the 25th. So you guys might not hear this in time, but it's called the Pleasure Portal, which is all about women reconnecting to their pleasure, orgasmic manifestation, and really owning and embodying their feminine energy. So that is going to be a really juicy portal for women, and the focus is on healing your relationship with pleasure and opening wide to receive it, and to abundance and healing your relationship with money and abundance.
Yeah.
Because we are divine receivers as the feminine. So
yeah, and
that's
she's
open.
genius at that.
Thank you.
Check it out.
Thank you. So good. We both do one-to-one coaching, so either one of us reach out if that's something you feel aligned to.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah. And this was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And we'll see you in the next episode.